Welcome to today's Business Insight Studio. With me today is Tim. Tim, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Tim Grieveson. I'm the Chief Cybersecurity Strategist for Hewlett Packard Enterprise, based in EMEA for enterprise security products. And I was a former CIO and CISO.
On April 14th of this year, the European Parliament released an updated version of the General Data Protection Regulation. A regulation that really looks at privacy in the European Union. Can you tell us what it is and what it does?
Sure. I mean, lots of vendors talk about the new regulation as by using fear, uncertainty and doubt. I don't think it's any of those things. I think it's a great opportunity for organizations to really review their overall security posture. But it's a pan-European legislation designed to protect the privacy of EU citizens.
How are businesses dealing with it? What do they have to do to actually be compliant?
So there's various stages that the organisations in Europe are at. I think most organisations are ill prepared, if I'm honest with you, but I think there's lots to do. But there's two key things that come out of the new legislation. The first one is there is a fine associated with non-compliance. And typically this is 4% of a company's parent annual revenue. So a fairly sizable number, particularly if you think about the cost of cybercrime is increasing as well. You know, from Ponemon we know that it's on average $7.7 million is the cost of an average breach. The second thing that's fairly difficult and challenging out of the new legislation is organizations need to notify the authorities of a breach within 72 hours. So, you know, that may be a challenge because lots of organizations don't actually know they've been breached. You know, if we read, what we find in the Ponemon report, it says on average, organizations have a bad guy inside their business for more than 243 days. So clearly we need to do something about that. We need to understand that we've been breached. We need to understand where the bad guys are. But at the same time, I think we should use this as an opportunity for businesses to really drive some new value from their data. Yes, they need to protect the privacy. They need to protect the information within their organization about their customers, about their personal information. But why not use that data and that tsunami of information they have into creating some real insights and differentiate their business?
Now, a big element is big fines. But this is about fear and putting enterprises in a position where, hey, if you don't do anything, it's about fear. Isn't there a business advantage and a business benefit to actually adopt this regulation?
There is. I mean, yes, there's a fine associated, but there's fines associated with other non-compliance of other regulations. The difference between this and others, and I think this is putting organizations in a really good stead for any organization, is to really look holistically at their overall security posture. Make sure they understand the data they've got within their business. Focus on the interactions between the user, the data, and the app. And then really use that as a positive way of understanding how they can differentiate themselves. Yes, you've got a fine, but actually, why not use the regulation to get some meaningful insights from the data itself? Therefore, creating competitive advantage, new routes to market.
I think we are in a global economy, and we have a lot of companies that do business in Europe that are based in Asia or based in the Americas. How are they impacted by the regulation?
They're still impacted. I mean, although this focuses on Europe, lots of organizations, deal with the European companies. They share data with Europe and the companies that reside in Europe. So just because you're not, housed within Europe, if you're dealing with data, this regulation still applies. So you still need to understand the implications to your organization.
So if I'm an organization and I'm trying to actually get going with this, where do I start?
I think the first thing is it's fundamentally around records management. It's really understanding the information that you've got within your business. It's making sure that you understand the value of it, making sure you understand how you need to protect it. One of the really good things out of the new legislation is the need and the requirement for a data privacy officer. This can only be a good thing because you're giving somebody the responsibility. But that being said, it's ultimately the whole of the business that's responsible. So it's not just the privacy officer. It needs to come from the board and everybody needs to understand the part they have to play. The second thing I think that's really useful is, the legislation talks about encryption, it talks about anonymization of data. Make the assumption at some point you're going to be breached as a business. There's two types of organizations as far as I'm concerned. When I was in the seat as a CISO, it was organizations that have been breached or organizations that have been breached that don't know about it yet. So, protecting your data, disrupting the bad guy by encrypting can only be a good thing, because ultimately they're out to commoditize, monetize, and sell that data.
So this seems to be a very, very big project and very time intensive. How much time do actually enterprise get to implement this?
So it needs to be fully implemented within the next 2 years. But that being said, it's a journey. So although legislation in terms of enforcement comes in 2 years, I think the time is now to start. Good security is good business. Making sure that you really understand your critical business assets, making sure that you're building a culture and a posture to protect the privacy is something that we should all do. So today we should start, but it'll be an ongoing journey for organizations.
How can our customers actually learn more about through Hewlett Packard Enterprise about this?
So there's a number of ways they can do that. I think we're really well placed being a global security partner. We also partner with PwC, who look at it from a business context, with Hewlett Packard Enterprise delivering the solutions and the technology and people. So, absolutely go and look at our website, which is hpe.com. Talk to your local sales rep, talk to your strategist, and really start to understand what that means to you as a business.
So Tim, thanks a lot for coming. It was a pleasure to have you here in this episode of Business Insight Studio. We are wrapping up here. For more content, please go to hpe.com.